The key to being able to create mind-blowing mixes that really jump out of the speakers, that stand shoulder to shoulder with your favorite mixes of all time, is a fundamental understanding of the frequency range. If you can understand the language of each of these frequency ranges as well as be able to hear these different frequency ranges, you're well on your way to being able to produce amazing sounding mixes. Within the next few videos, we're going to talk about each different frequency range and the language that surrounds them, as well as some special things to look out for within each of them. And in this video, we're going to talk about your low end frequencies. So let's dive in. What's up? Welcome back. We're back in Ableton, and today we're talking about how to divide the frequency spectrum. So how to make compartments of the frequency spectrum so we can better understand it and we can better think about it, and even more importantly, better hear it. So if you've ever been around a simple mixing board or even your car stereo, you'll be familiar with what is called the Mulit-Band Fixed Q, EQ, and how it divides frequencies into low, mids, and highs. Some EQs take it even farther and add more sections for lows, low mids, high mids, and highs. And we're going to go even farther and add mids in the middle of that. So dividing the whole frequency spectrum into 5 categories. So check out this picture and you kind of visually see how all these frequencies have their own compartments, okay, and their own name. You might not agree with these categories or these exact frequency values for each category. However, that doesn't really matter because the 5-part breakdown is a great way to visualize the frequency spectrum. And you want to think about how it sounds and the inherent problems that lie within each of these categories. That's what's powerful about this. All right, so we're going to break down and explain each of these characteristic frequency areas and its corresponding vocabulary, because typically we're going to use a lot of jargon in describing these frequencies and understanding when there's a problem or something that we want to enhance in each of these categories. And this is an important language to be able to speak to not only understand EQ, but when you're talking to engineers or other artists or even musician friends of yours, that you have some sort of language to communicate about the frequencies. And of course, keep in mind that there is no magic frequency areas or magic one-size-fits-all solution for any particular problem, because every mix is different, every sound is different, and we have to use our ears along with an understanding of these different categories of frequency to be able to make a good decision. Frequency charts and best practices will only get you so far and won't get you great mixes without listening to the music and what the music needs. So a great way that I recommend that you approach how to learn EQ and incorporate it into your mixes is to first be able to hear what's happening in these different frequency areas, and then be able to quickly identify what are the most common problems and if those problems are in your mix. And then you can go ahead and diagnose the problem and take action knowing where to go first. We're back in Ableton with all of my rainbow colored lovely tracks, and I'm working on this song right now. It's kind of got this chill vibe. I'll give you a little taste, and then we're going to move into listening and identifying all of these frequency areas. So something like that. And what I've done is I've thrown an audio issues EQ onto our master bus so that all of our tracks are going through this EQ. If I play it, you'll see all of our tracks are going through here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the specific frequency range that we are talking about at any given point in time as we move through this, so we can start to hear what elements lie in those ranges. If you haven't checked out the Audio Issues EQ yet, I definitely encourage you to check it out. Link in the description. It's a super powerful and intuitive, versatile EQ that has all the language built in so that as we learn this audio jargon, we can actually attach it to EQ moves that we're doing in our mix. Super handy to have in your plugin folder, so definitely check it out. So let's start with the low frequencies. So this range is from about 20 hertz to 200 hertz. And in this range, we tend to talk about weight, boom, thump, rumble, thickness. And let's listen to what that sounds like. So I'm going to activate a low pass filter and I'm going to drag it all the way down to 200 hertz. And I'm going to increase the slope to 18 decibels per octave so we can actually listen to the range that we're isolating. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play and let's listen to what we hear. All right, so we're getting a lot of that low end of the kick drum, the bass. We're also getting the low end of that keyboard, those chords. So if we just look at the audio issues EQ and the language it's telling us, we can see that in the sub 200 hertz range, we get the sub, we get a lot of boom, and we can get a lot of muddiness when we approach the 200 hertz range. But on the flip side, for more of a positive language, we have thump and we have punch, and even some warmth and weight once we get to about 200 hertz or so. So depending if you want more punch or more thump in a sound, you might be boosting in this range. But if it's way too boomy or way too sub heavy, or it's muddying up your mix, then you might want to cut somewhere in this low frequency range. The lowest frequency range adds fullness to those bass instruments like the kick drum, the toms, and the bass like we were hearing in the example earlier. This 50 to 100 hertz area is a typical range that you'll want to cut if the low end is interfering with the clarity of the whole low end of your mix. If we boost in this area with the lower part of this EQ, it can really add a lot of extra punch and almost another dynamic of feeling to the bass instead of hearing it. So it's more so the bass you feel as opposed to what you actually hear. Of course, you'll need some juicy low-end speakers to actually hear this, and you can go overboard. It can be a nice area to boost in as well. You can think of this sub area as like the subsonic thickness from the lowest bass playing at a huge dubstep festival with like a huge drop in a massive speaker system. What you actually feel would be this frequency range. When we think of thump and punch, a good way to describe that is a kick drum with a lot of low end content. You'll hear this a lot in dance music and modern hip hop, where the low end of the kick drum is super present. So boosting in this boom range, or what is also called full range, can really give low-end frequency instruments a harder sound, right? It adds fullness to guitar, even to a snare, but too much can clutter up your mix. So this is a very delicate area to be boosting. That wraps it up for this video, and in the next video, we're going to talk about the low-mid frequencies and the surrounding language and some things to look out for in that frequency range area. If you haven't already, definitely check out the Audio Issues EQ link in the description below, and I will see you in the next video.